Sony 35mm f1.8 is a great lens, and here is my in-depth review. Let's go! What's good guys, my name is Oleg Nikitin and you're watching No Limits on channel, and here is the Sony 35mm f1.8 prime lens, and it's a great one. I bought this lens around 2 months ago and I've been working with it hardly. It's the most used lens right now on my Sony a7S III. And here is everything you need to know about this lens. Let's start off with the size and weight of this little beauty. It's only 280 grams, it's a pretty lightweight and very compact lens. It is 65 by 73 millimeters in dimensions, and it's a very lightweight lens, and I can throw it into my backpack and even don't feel the weight of this lens and carry it everywhere together with me. Also, it has the 55mm filter thread. It's not the most common filter thread, but I do know that almost every filter you have will fit here if you have an adapter ring, which is, a pretty cheap thing to buy. 35mm is a pretty common focal length, and I do enjoy using this focal length because it allows me to get a lot of shots during reportage shoot and during the actual normal, regular shoot. I can also get a lot of shots using only this lens. It's a pretty fast lens, f1.8. I can use it in low light. Of course, I can take a portrait shot, I can take a wide shot with it. It has a very low distortion and it's very sharp indeed at all apertures. The autofocus of this lens is just amazing. I've been using it almost every time in the autofocus mode and I really enjoy it. It's very precise and it's pretty sticky, and the tracking function is just incredible. Maybe it's because of my Sony a7S III, but this combo, this lens and this camera is just outstanding. So use this lens with autofocus and you'll be glad and satisfied with the results. This lens has a switch from autofocus to manual focus and also a special button, an extra button. You can assign this button to make almost everything, and I have assigned it like this. If I press and hold this button, it is switching to manual focus. I can adjust my focus and then release it to continue to be in autofocus. Real good. Why am I doing this? Also, this lens is weather sealed, and Sony claims that it has weather sealing rings throughout inside the lens, which is great. And I've been shooting under the rain with this lens and it's pretty responsive and everything was okay. This lens is focused by wire, so it's not a mechanical focusing ring, but it's very responsive and precise. You can repeat your movements. Also, if you rotate it not very fast, you can achieve up to 320-360 degrees of rotation, and it's a very responsive ring. I pretty much use this, not a lot because of the autofocus, but when I do, I just hit the focus and I grab the focus and it's just perfect. It's almost like if it was a regular focusing lens without the focus by wire motor. This lens has 9 blades in its aperture, in its rounded aperture, so you get pretty good round bokehs and very smooth out of focus areas, and the whole picture quality and sharpness and out of focus areas are pretty great. No complaints here. Focus breathing in this lens is not very noticeable, it's almost none. Comparing it to the Sony G Master 35mm f1.4 or the newest Sigma 35mm f1.4 for Sony E-mount, they have ridiculous focus breathing and the picture zooms in and out while you're focusing a lot. And if you're caring about video functions of this lens, I do prefer this one for video, not the G Master, because it's still a very sharp, very good, very fast lens, but without focus breathing almost. Also, I'd like to mention that it has only 22 centimeters of minimal focusing distance, and you can basically use this lens as a macro lens. I don't need to carry around a macro lens, a separate one. I can make some shots like the wedding rings or something else with this lens and get pretty good results actually. And now about the pricing. This lens costs on B&H $700, which is a pretty good price for this little beast. And let's see the other options. So the most pricey one is the Sigma 35mm f1.2, not 1.4, 1.2 DGDN art lens. DN stands for These Nuts. If you are watching this guy on YouTube, you know what I'm talking about. And it costs $1,500, so it's more than 2 times more than this little lens. And it weighs a kilogram and some, and 100 grams, so it's much heavier and bulkier and bigger. You got me. Also here we have the Sony FE 35mm f1.4 GM lens, which is double the price of this one, $1,400. It's a great lens, but it has some horrendous focus breathing, and it's not for video as much as this one. Also, the minimal focusing distance is bigger, so it's not for me. It doesn't cost 2 times more for me. I'm not ready to pay 2 times for this lens. The next lens is the newest Sigma 35mm f1.4 DGDN Art for Sony E mount. It costs $900, so a little bit more than this one, and it's also bigger, also with focus breathing and with very low resolution on the close focusing distance. Joe and Dandan has the test on his channel, and I'm not really impressed with the results of this lens for its weight, size and price. Also here we have the good old Sigma 35 f1.4 DG HSM art lens for Canon EF, and you can adapt this lens via MC11 adapter, but it will have slower autofocus at first, and then the picture quality may be a little bit better, but worse autofocus, and the size itself and the weight is a big factor for me. And the last option we have is Samyang AF 35mm f1.8 FE lens for Sony E mount. It costs $380, so it's a pretty cheap one, but it doesn't have weather sealing, it has slower autofocus, it has less sharpness, less contrast, and overall just a cheaper lens. And I heard a lot of reviews that people hate the build quality of those lenses and that they last for like a year, maybe a couple of years, and they just fall apart. So for me, this one is the perfect option. Looks like I'm an ambassador of Sony or of this 35mm, but it's ain't true. So I just adore using this lens, and I do recommend using it for you guys. So guys, what do you think about this lens, Sony 35mm f1.8? Please share your thoughts in the comment section below, right there. Also hit the like and subscribe buttons if you didn't already. I would much appreciate it, guys. And I see you in the next video on my channel, No Limits On. Take care, guys. Bye.